I still believe in my heart of hearts that they're going to get Stanford and Cal, and they're going to get Oregon and Washington. I think they're going to end up with a 6 West Coast team deal, which will make it easier for the travel of all 6 of those schools. And I also believe they're going to work to the other side of the country, and I think they're going to target North Carolina. And whether it be Duke with them or Virginia with them, I think you're going to see them work to that portion of the country as well. And I wouldn't be shocked if Miami's not involved in some way, shape, or form.
That right there was Rick Neuheisel on Sirius XM. How's everybody doing? Dennis Fithian with you here. How about that? I tell you, I'd take Oregon, Washington, North Carolina, and Duke. You could put that in front of me. I would sign up for that today. I think that's a long ways away, but people still like talking about that. Named Rick Neuheisel. Maybe he knows something. Well, maybe he was just throwing some names out there. No matter. That was the start of this week, the last full week of July. If you're just coming around to Michigan football and basketball today, it is what the title suggests. We talk about the latest in Michigan football and basketball today, every day, weekdays at 1 o'clock, and today being no different. Today, you take a look at the long week, and in some ways you could say we made it, as, folks that love college football and count down the days. It's getting where, you don't have to have those 100-day projections or 50 days. And the Big Ten coaches meetings take place this week in Indianapolis. And that really gets the juices flowing. And even though a lot of it is predictable, it's just the coaches, getting ready and talking about the upcoming season. And it's just like what we're doing here today. It's like, well, what are you saying? That's so inspirational, or, such on point. It's about a conversation about what we all love in football. And, that's what we're doing. And we have a chance for you to be a part of this show. You want to put your comments up wherever you are watching or listening to this. I put those comments up on the screen in real time, and we discuss them. You can get a call in, a variety of different ways that you can join us. What are we talking about today? That's a good question. Football. The Michigan football team, you may have seen that they are touring the state of Michigan. I'll give you my thoughts on the tour of the Great Lakes State. I also put together today a preseason top 10 for college football. Anybody can put a preseason top 10 together. You do it, and then you'll wonder, what do I really know about this team or that team? We'll discuss that getting into this the show, a preseason. It's not a way too early top 10. It is about to happen preseason top 10. I'll have that coming your way, but we'll start with a preview of a big week for both Michigan football and basketball. The football side has something that they call the barbecue, and that is where we will start this broadcast. Michigan has a pair of 5 stars. I lump them together here today, and they have a quarterback coming in, the number 5 player overall, ranked by Rivals, pro-style quarterback, not for the 2023 class. That would be going in to be a senior, but going in to be a junior in Jaden Davis. And Jaden Davis is from Charlotte, North Carolina, and he's supposed to be coming in for the barbecue at week's end, and this is a big one for Michigan. Look, CJ Carr was a big one for Michigan, and then when CJ Carr passed on Michigan and went to Notre Dame and everything about it, everybody's like, well, Michigan, if they get Dante Moore, they'll do all right. And then they didn't get Dante Moore, and they're like, well, if they don't get CJ Carr, they don't get Dante Moore, if they get Jaden Davis, everything will be okay. So we're down to, and that, all that is true, I believe. So Jaden Davis, it will say a lot for Michigan. You know this, and I know this. There has been a lot of talk about it's the the topic that will be discussed in Indianapolis, just like it was for the Big 12, the ACC, SEC. I guess I missed the Pac-12 media days, but all the coaches are going to be asked about name, image, and likeness. And for Michigan, if you've been following along, there's been a lot of focus on their approach and their strategy when it comes down to NIL. And just like those quarterbacks that I had talked about just a minute or two ago, if Michigan is able to get a commitment from Davis, any kind of hand wringing or Michigan's not going to be able to land the top guy because of their approach, well, that goes out the window. And Michigan is looking pretty good and sitting pretty if they're able to get a commitment from a guy like Jaden Davis. So we'll find out. I don't know if he's going to commit right after, or if he's going to do it. The last that he had talked about a timetable was that he was going to trim down his list a little bit. Was it before the season or during the season? And then, thinking about a timetable then. So a long way to go still with Davis, but Michigan getting that visit this week is obviously big. And you look at the teams that Davis is considering. I mean, look, he's right up there. I said, number 5, even though the thumbnail that I have a picture up, that was from a little while ago, an adjustment in the rankings. They get him at number 4. Whatever. I mean, he is a 5-star, one of the top players to get, and then you would expect the big schools to be in and coming after him, and they are. In addition to Michigan, you got Bama, you got Clemson, you got Georgia, you have LSU. So a big week for Michigan is I would love to know how they're presenting their name, image, and likeness package as their entire sales pitch to a quarterback like Davis in this new NIL era. That would be fascinating to know exactly how they're going about it. Tyler on the feedback says Keyshawn Bennett, TJ Guy, both could be big-time risers this year, pushing the starters, adding time and depth. Well, Tyler, one of the questions, and it could be, I'm going to go ahead, Tyler, and say that's going to be the first question to Jim Harbaugh. So they're going to go out into the crowd. Somebody's going to have their hand up, and it'll be Greg Doyle from Indianapolis Star. And Greg will say, "Hey, Jim, you lost Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo. How do you go about replacing those guys?" And Jim will say, "Great question, Greg." And then he'll talk about Mike Morris and Taylor Upshaw. But after that, it wouldn't be a surprise if he mentioned guys like Keyshawn Bennett and TJ Guy, like you're talking about, Braden McGregor, Jalen Harrell. There's another 2. So there's 4. Actually, there's 6 that I've just mentioned that. If I had to predict who is going to line up on September 3rd, I would say Taylor Upshaw and Mike Morris will be on the outside with Mozzie Smith and Chris Jenkins on the inside. That'll be Michigan's defensive line. And, one of those guys is an outside linebacker because it's a 3-4, but I think those would be the 4 guys that will be up front. And I think both Bennett and Guy are good choices of players that are going to get some time and could surprise that way. Somebody named Ariana. I think that's a bot. She's talking about me wanting to do something with high def. All right, no matter. A good comment. So Davis is expected to be in at the barbecue. Also, I don't know if they run it together, football and basketball. I think there is harmony between both sports, but I don't know if Juwan Howard and Jim Harbaugh are talking about when they have a recruiting weekend, if they mix the players or anything else. But Michigan basketball is bringing in a 5-star, also ranked number 5 overall in Rivals rankings for next year. While Davis is in the class of 24, in the class of 23 is this point guard named Isaiah Collier. And Michigan is his last visit, and then he is going to be set to make a decision coming up. And so, to me, this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. A big week for both Michigan basketball and football. I mean, it's a big weekend. You get a recruiting weekend, you get this and that. But what it would say for the basketball program or the football program if they were able to land either of these guys, it would speak to their name, image, and likeness. And sure, will there be somebody to come up and say, "Well, these guys are just these guys are one offs." Most players, it's not, but it doesn't matter if they're one offs or not. You're getting the actual cream of the crop. I mean, this is the best of the best. So I would come back with a trump card that way for any negativity. If Michigan is able to land either of these guys on basketball front or the football front, it will be amazing. Like I said, Collier, you might know sooner. Collier, if you just think about basketball and 5 stars, I mean, most 5 stars to begin with are thinking they are one and done. Like, look at last year for Michigan. Like, you had Caleb Houston. Caleb Houston didn't have a great year. I don't even know if he had a good year. And yet he got drafted in the second round and got guaranteed money. Musa Diabate was all right. He didn't get drafted in the first round either. He's getting guaranteed money. So these guys coming in, like, it's almost like they're automatic millionaires. A guy like Isaiah Collier. And knowing that you're only going to be around for a year, are you going to look at Michigan's NIL presentation and saying, "Hey, I'm just going to go somewhere that's going to just give me the most money and a place I can be on TV, left and right"? There's a lot of those places. So it's a good test case for name, image, and likeness. And if Juwan Howard is able to pull a player like Collier in, it will go a heck of a long way for people like myself who just look at the strategy and wonder if it's going to be effective, if it's going to work, how it's going to play out, if they're going to sacrifice a couple months, maybe even a complete cycle with what they're doing here before they get in and get down with everybody else. We'll have to see. I was going to say, I didn't want to say we'll have to wait and see, but of course we are going to have to wait and see. Just think about both football and basketball and a profile of Collier, a point guard that's 6'4", and he's out of the Peach State in Marietta, Georgia. And it looks like Michigan, some California schools in there, other newest additions to the Big Ten, SC and UCLA in the mix as well. But Michigan in there with a chance for Collier, and that would be a pretty big get. Now, over the weekend, we're a part of Maize and Blue Review, Rivals.com, and on the message board, I put a thread up about a topic up, and the topic was just like it is what I'm talking about here, that it's going to be a big week for Michigan basketball and football, and what it will mean if Michigan was able to get a player like Collier or, Davis down the line, and what it would say to Michigan's approach with the name, image, and likeness. I also just speculated on both football, college football, and basketball about the teams right now that are perceived to be playing name, image, and likeness with money up front, with inducements, with pay for play. Not that I know, not that you know. I don't know if anybody knows. Either the NCAA doesn't know. They don't seem like they're doing anything about it, even if they do know. But, you see some different stories. I guess you call them reports. I mean, they're reporters, and they're putting stories up there. Somebody's telling them something, but, no reporters giving up their sources. But, so we've seen some of the rumored deals. Heck, from the Michigan side, somebody told me that, Dante Moore was getting, 6 jobs for whoever he wanted. And, I think it was $3.5 million. That was what the Michigan side, thought that they had to beat. So there are a lot of stories out there. We don't know exactly what the numbers are, but, they're being thrown around a lot. So I put up the number of teams that I suspected are into the pay for play, inducement, cash up front, signing bonus type situation, which a lot of people want. Michigan saying, they got to do it or else they are not going to get these top players. And there's a point to that so far. And this is going to be a nice test case this particular week with Collier, because he is getting ready to make a decision, and then down the line with Davis. But you can check that thread out. It is surprising. It was surprising to me because I said, well, let me just speculate on, what about this team? I think that I'd have to pull the list up, but I think there's at least 15 in both college football and basketball that are playing the pay-for-play game right now. That's a lot. So you can say, yeah, well, Michigan's going to, play it this certain way, and they're going to sit back, and, they're not cheating. They're not crossing that line. And that's fine, with their strategy. We're going to see if it's going to work or not. But there's at least 15 teams that I identified both on the basketball and football side that I think are readily right now are serving up inducements. And that's a tough way to go if you are, trying to, get the very top talent. All right. You may have seen this. You probably have. I mean, if you're anywhere online, I would imagine that the news stations, this makes for good. It makes for a good 30 seconds on a newscast, Dan Miller or Brad Galley, sitting out there like, look at the Michigan team. They're up in Muskegon. They're up in Flint doing this. They're out at the beach. They're all kinds of different things. And you've seen that. And they even have a nice marketing strategy. Who wouldn't mind one of the hats or shirts with, the block M, and it says our state and all the different, it looks like Detroit over there on the right. I don't know if that's a mix of Grand Rapids in there or not, but get the waterfall. I guess they're, must be heading up to the UP after this, but it's a cool logo, and, it's a good idea, and it's good for the state of Michigan. You always see that, the Pure Michigan ads. This is Pure Michigan, seeing the guys, it looks like some good, clean fun out on the beach from different spots. There's a lot of people saying, hey, Michigan's out of Muskegon, my hometown, man. And, seeing the maize and blue there. You always, if you're, from up north, or if you're not from the general southeast area, southeast Michigan area where I grew up the whole time, but, I've been around the great state of Michigan. It's a great idea that way, to touch base with all the different players. And for the players, now, I don't know how much the exact practice time that's put in there, and, how that's all. And the one person that's flipping the bill, that's pretty nice. I see the, the buses that are rolling out there. They're staying in pretty nice hotels, but it's good for the state of Michigan. I think it's good public relations for Michigan's team. And then I think overall for team chemistry, hanging out with your brother, with your teammates, with your position group, with your side of the ball, with the entire team, representing, the University of Michigan across the state. I don't see any drawbacks. Now, when Michigan was going to abroad, and I was working in Detroit, and there would be people, and I don't know, maybe they were Michigan fans, but probably, rival fans saying, what kind of good is this doing for the football team? What kind of practice are they really getting in Italy? And I always thought two things about abroad, and I think it can be used here. That, sure, every second of practice time is valuable. Also, being able to do different things and have a different mindset can sometimes be valuable. If you're always in Ann Arbor on the practice field, but going to a different practice field. I think I saw JJ McCarthy somewhere. I don't know, Grand Rapids, some field. In different surroundings, different people. Traveling a little bit. I think all of that is a benefit. I always thought that it would be good for recruiting as well. Although I don't know if I have one single instance that I can claim where some player said, in the end, I thought, being able to see the world was what did it for me. But I thought it was a good idea anyways, and I didn't think it could hurt. Now, the way you could say it could hurt is that, they could be using all of their time, on the practice field, going through, there's only so many reps you can get there. And, so maybe you'd have a point there. I don't. I think this is good all the way around. I think maybe they should just stay in Michigan, like so many different places you could visit every year. At least have some kind of cycle of maybe 3 in Michigan and 1 off. But then that's my recommendation for the football program, and we'll see where they go with that. KC asking, what waterfall is that? Well, let me take a closer look. I have never to Common Falls. Am I saying that right? It doesn't really look like T Falls up north because that one has kind of a, I don't know, like a double waterfall. Although now that I haven't been to Common Falls, but I have seen some waterfalls. My brother went to northern Michigan up in Marquette, and I did travel up there one time and hung out there on the weekend. And sure enough, we went out there and saw a waterfall. It didn't look like this one, though. It wasn't quite as big. So I don't know if it's an exact replica of one or not, but it's a decent enough question, Casey. That's my answer for you. I don't know. Okay. Any other feedback is welcome. This is a good exercise for me every year is getting into the top 25 in college football. You look at the top 25 yourself and you say this team's too high, this team's too low. You also hear people will say preseason polls don't matter. And largely, you're right about that. But just like they put one out right after the season, you're always interested in all like, what are people saying about, where the team might rank or not. And it might be difficult to be, unranked. And it wasn't Michigan this last year. They were the first team that was unranked and made it to the college football playoff. So you have a long way to go. Win all your games, you're doing all right. When Michigan won in 97, I believe they were preseason 14. So, a ways to go, but it's a good exercise for you to do because if you don't look at the polls and then you do it yourself and then you go back and see kind of what a consensus is of what some of the experts and the magazines are saying, you're like, oh man, I nailed it, or then I didn't. But what is pretty easy to determine who the top two schools are right now, knowing Alabama and bringing back Bryce Young, who won the Heisman Trophy, having Tim Anderson Jr. on the other side, a great a defensive player for Alabama, knowing that Nick Saban uses his losses in a championship game as fuel for his team. All of those things are there. And also you just know the overall talent as we watch it year after year with the recruiting and what goes on there. Alabama looks like they're the cream of the crop. And yeah, they're the favorite. If I had to pick a team right now that would be, the champ, I would pick Alabama for all of those reasons. And you say, well, that's easy. And I agree with you. It is easy picking Alabama. It's no fun picking Ohio State. But if I have to be honest, the offensive firepower that the Buckeyes have, and, maybe they'll be soft on defense like they were a little bit last year. And if it snows a little bit, that'll work against them. They brought in a new defensive coordinator from Oklahoma State. I know they're high on him, but, they can score. And I know they lost Olave and Garrett Wilson, who are great wide receivers, but some of the players, and you can look at the recruiting rankings, but that Marvin Harrison Jr. is the real deal. That Smith Jigba is better than the two guys that I just mentioned that went to the pros. So Ohio State's loaded. It would be a surprise if they weren't in the college football playoff. Georgia loses a heck of a lot on defense, but they also recruit really well. And so I think they'll stock that through. If you look at that schedule and you just start saying, well, Georgia's going to be favored in all their games. They do play Oregon right out of the gate coming up in like 40 some days. And so that'll be fun. That game's in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Mercedes-Benz Dome. Would it be different if, they were in Eugene? Yeah. It's tough to play on the road. We saw what Oregon was able to do last year when they went into Columbus and beat Ohio State. So, Georgia does have that early matchup, which will be fun to watch. That first weekend's going to be great because you also have Ohio State playing Notre Dame that night. It's a nice triple header. Michigan opening up, then Georgia, Oregon, then Ohio State, Notre Dame. I know what I'm going to be doing all day Mark it down, September the 3rd. I have Michigan at 4 in my preseason poll. They are stacked offensively. I think they're going to score over 40 points a game. Defensively, some people have already mentioned some of the players that could fill in there. They need some playmakers. Got to step up, find some of those guys. I think they can be back in the college football playoff. I think they can hang I think they're going to be 11-0 heading into that game against Ohio State. And you know as well as I do, if that's the case, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to pick Michigan to maybe pull that upset down there. I might be one of them, but I know at least as far as I'm ready to go today is I think Michigan's going to go 11-0 and heading into that battle with Ohio State, who I also think is going to be 11-0 in that game. So it's going to make a game of the century 2.0. The first one was in 2006. I think that when I looked at it the first time right after the season, I thought, what a reasonable pick for Michigan is, because look at how many times have they gone 11-0, even going into the Ohio State game? Not a lot. 2006, 97. Probably some of those teams in the 70s. Not a whole heck of a lot. So it's unusual to do that. But then I said, so I thought, losing at Ohio State, losing at Iowa, those are going to be their two toughest games. Very reasonable pick, even though it's an over selection from what the odds makers have them in the over and under totals. I still thought that was reasonable. But the more I looked at, Iowa has no offense. And, I think Michigan should, even at night, should be able to get in there and beat Iowa. So I do think 11-0 is the way to go. Tyler talking about Muskegon being a great beach town. I did a charter boat off of Muskegon. It might have been a little bit higher. And I've also done some whitewater rafting up there. The whole coast. I took an RV up the coast to Traverse City one time in the sand. I mean, the whole way. I mean, you could start, I don't know what's the lowest that you would start Lake Michigan? Grand Haven maybe, and then you just continue to move up all the way. I mean, it's awesome. The way I would really want to do it, I'd like to get a nice yacht. Maybe start out in Chicago in the yacht, and then take that right up the coast of Michigan, up to Traverse City, all the way to Mackinac. Do I take it all the way down? I mean, I don't know, how many stops would that be? All of it. Maybe swing it up to the UP. What am I going to need? 2 weeks? Be able to do all of that? Sounds fun. Yeah, Muskegon is great. It is. The water in the summer, Lake Michigan, it's still cold. I can remember going up to Traverse City and parking our RV in a campground, and then going out. There wasn't a soul. It was like 100. I don't know if it was 100, but it was in the 90s. And this beach, but the sand and the cold water, it felt like the Caribbean. I've never been to the Caribbean, but that's what it was like. It's some pure Michigan. Let's go, Tyler. It is awesome. So, yeah, that's good. I continue to roll through my top 10. Let me go back. I didn't mean to do that because Keith had a point. We got a few bots in here. Let's go. Ricky had a question. Any update on the Board of Regents meeting? Ricky, they had their meeting up in Mackinac. You're thinking about they didn't make anything public regarding name, image, and likeness, and that's what a lot of Michigan fans were hoping for. I also had been told heading into that meeting, even though it wasn't on the agenda or the minutes that they were going to discuss it, that there was hope by many that there was going to be some kind of recognition about the collectibles and the new president, but that never happened. Now, so and they don't meet again for, I don't know, for a long time. They can always have these special, and so they didn't get that blessing that I think a lot of us were hoping for. And I don't know if that's a, you look at it as a setback. It was something that people were expecting, and then it didn't happen. So maybe they're going to have to operate. Behind closed doors makes it sound like it's shady. The one thing about the collectible, Ricky, is that like you are somebody that goes out there and that you have to work with the administration and the football coaches, and yet you're not tied to the university at all. You're on the other side. You're just a collectible. Like if it was just me and I had, I don't know, $10 million, I wouldn't be working for Michigan, but there would be people that would be in contact with me saying, hey, we really like Jaden Davis. Whatever you can say to Jaden Davis without saying, I don't know if you have to wink, present him with whatever you want. Just don't tell him that we're, giving him pay for play. It's the whole thing when it comes down to, promises and, how you get these players in, semantics in a lot of ways. If I say, you can have the opportunity as soon as you sign your name to make $2 million. Now that sounds like an inducement to me, and that sounds like pay for play. That sounds like a signing bonus, but is it? Oh, again, I've been chasing my tail all summer long on this. And no, the answer, the quick answer to what your question is, Ricky, is no. Keith wants to know who are the projected top receivers this season. If you're talking specifically about Michigan, they are loaded at wide receiver. They have Ronnie Bell, who was expected to be their number one wide receiver last year, got hurt in the opening game, and he's back. I would project him number one. And number two, I would project Cornelius Johnson to be the other wide receiver. And three, I would say Andrell Anthony, but I'm going to have put a fourth in there in Roman Wilson, even though you could start going down and, Michigan's got a freshman in Darius Clemens who had a big spring game. Michigan's got, I go with those top three and Bell, Johnson, and Anthony, but, Roman Wilson and technically AJ Henning is a wide receiver, although he ran the ball almost as much as he caught it last year, and Michigan is going to use him out of the backfield. I think he's going to get more carries than he is wide receivers, or than he is catches. So when you start talking about how they're going to divvy all this up, I don't know if all those guys can, be named as, their top receivers. They've got nice depth. They've got some star potential. They've got some size. They got guys that can take the top off of a defense. You got to love the wide receiver room for Michigan. That's why I've got them number 4 on my list. Moving down, Utah, they hung with Ohio State in that Rose Bowl. That was impressive to me. They should have beat Ohio State. They got a nice thing going there in Utah. That's why I have them that high. It's tough to go outside the Big Ten and SEC. Clemson last year had no offense. But if they can get a little bit of offense, they've got a great defense, and they made the playoff, the 6 years prior to that. I like Clemson. Texas A&M, they got to go to Alabama. And, can they work the rest of the side of that division and come out of it? I don't feel great about Texas A&M, but I have there, just like I don't feel great. After actually the top 6, there's Bama and Ohio State, and then there's a line. But then I also feel like there's a line when you get to 7, because Texas A&M, Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, Michigan State, I don't know if I feel great about any of those teams. Notre Dame's going to lose to Ohio State in week 1. They're going to play Clemson and USC. Those are tough games. Oklahoma State was pretty good last year, and they got a good quarterback. They lost their defensive coordinator, who did a respectable job last year, which is weird to say in the Big 12 and talking about the Cowboys, but they got a pretty good team. And then Michigan State, it's hard to know, with Kenneth Walker last year was so great, but they bring another transfer in Jalen Berger. You see a little bit from Wisconsin, but I don't know about the defense. Michigan fans might not like to hear it, but I'm going to say it. Mel Tucker has shown that he can pick a team up and fill the holes to the transfer portal, and now recruiting as well. Drop guys in there, and he's a good enough coach where he had an excellent season last year. I was impressed with him after the pandemic, where he didn't even know the guys' names on his team without looking at the tape on the front of their helmet. And he put together a win over Michigan. So, he knows how to put together, he knows how to coach. But this is where I'm sitting right now. Am I locking it in for the start of the season? I might jumble around some of these names, but this is late July top 10 for me. That's where I'm sitting with it. More feedback. Take the yacht to Cedar Point. KC, I'm in. Let's start out in Chicago. You know, Grand Haven, Muskegon, Manistee, pretty good. Maybe stop a little bit north of Manistee and take the Asable River. Maybe take a little whitewater rafting. I don't know if it's how much whitewater. I did that. It was nice up there through the Asable. Got to stay in Traverse City for a little bit. Zip around to the other side to Alpena. Let's get down to Saginaw Bay. And then, can we go down? Do we have to go through the Detroit? Yeah, go through to Cedar Point. I'm in. Organize that. See how long that's going to take us. Okay. I reported these unwanted text messages. Hey, well, thanks, Keith. I didn't know you could see the, I guess, I didn't know you could see all of those. Yeah. What I am proud of is that I have not put any of those bot up on the screens. They're so loud and obnoxious that it's pretty easy to miss them. But I guess you can see them as well there. So I have to sift through them a little bit. So going to be a fun week with the Big Ten coaches meetings, and tomorrow I'll predict the questions to Jim Harbaugh. I'll ask the questions that I think he will be asked, questions that he should be asked, and then we will go from there. And a fun week speculating and then actually seeing what the list might look like about the players that are going to be coming in for both football and basketball. Thinking of basketball, I have a video that I wanted to show everyone. This is from last week or so. Michigan had a 4-star out of Illinois last year named Isaiah Barnes, 6'7". He was the first to commit to last year's class, and then he ended up redshirting. If you are looking at the screen, Barnes, it's easy. You can see Hunter Dickinson here, who's over on the one side. This player with the ball who's underneath the key is going to throw the ball diagonally to Barnes, who is just moving in from the 3-point line. Barnes is going to catch the ball, and then he is going to elevate just outside the semicircle that they use for the charging indicator on whether or not you're able to get your feet down and everything in the defensive position. And then he goes up and jams it. It's a nice 3-second video. What's also nice, I think that they put it in slow-mo right when he takes off. And so I don't know if that makes it look more impressive or that you can just see where he's taking off from. But the only other video that I have seen from Barnes, I haven't watched him play, was last year, like at a Midnight Madness. He was, I think he took it between his legs and threw it down to start out the Midnight Madness. And I was like, ooh, I can't wait to see that. But having said all that and set it up, here is. We can let it play a few times through because it's only like 3 seconds long. Here's Barnes with the jam. Yes. I think they do slow it down. Look. Oh, yeah. Those, I'm laughing because there's no question they slow it down. Like, you don't jump and then start going slower through the air. But you get that one dribble setup, and then, one hand would be impressive, because you get that punch with the one hand. But when you have two hands, you're going up strong. And there is a little cut. This is actually an and one because he is hit on the left side of his wrist. So this would have been an and one. I like it. I like it so much, I'm going to watch it again. KC sees the and one as well. Let's do it. Do I have time for one more video? I do. Why not? Actually, I've got time for anything because I've got nothing going on. I want you to stay with us. I've got more videos. So let me put this screen up, which is actually this one. You can look at my top 10 here while I'm loading up this next one. This next video, it doesn't have anything to do with Michigan, but I liked it all the same, and I wanted to show it to you. I've got one. That one's from Jamal Crawford. This is the one I'm talking about. Yeah, I like this one. So this is a guy and a girl playing pickup football. And the guy is guarding this this girl. A second, I'm going to have to take that down just for a second. Put that back up there. And so you think, okay, this is all fun. Maybe, little, guy, girl, kind of thing. But the guy really presses the girl, and then the girl comes out and makes a real highlight catch. And we'll break this video down. I have it now. Let's get it up there. So here it is. And you see the very end where she is catching the ball. Well, let's take this back and look at the press coverage and just what happens here. So here you get the press coverage of the guy, and he's not letting her off the line at all. But she continues through with the route, breaks away, even when she's getting jammed at the line, goes all the way around, cuts back, and now let's see the catch. Whoa, one-handed. Let's go. She threw the football after the guy started chasing after him. Like, yeah, what's up? This is some impressive. Now, I have to admit that if this was being played where I grew up, that quarterback would be down because I think we played like 4 dog. And so, or what was the other? 4 Mississippi. It was one or the other. We were either playing Mississippi, which is harder to say. So maybe it was 5 dog or 4 Mississippi. Let's go with 5 dog. All right, Hike. 1 dog, 2 dog, 3 dog, 4 dog, down. 5 dog, 6 dog, 7 dog, 8 dog. All right. Yeah, I mean, you have to put some kind of, you've got to put something in there because it's not going to work that way. All right, so, you want one more video? All right, well, you got time for one more. I actually do have one more that is in here, and it's ready to go. So let me load this one up. Tell me what you thought of that video, Casey. Did you like that one? I mentioned Jamal Crawford. This is where this one's coming from. And the former Wolverine, Jamal Crawford, it was on his Twitter. And this is, I don't know, maybe 10-year-old kid playing basketball, and he just throws a nice pass. And this pass, let me see if I can get this pass up here. Got to put that up. Big screen. Here it is. So what we have here, I don't know, maybe 12-year-old, is bringing the ball up, takes a gather, throws the ball. You don't even have the guy coming in from the left side of the screen who's running the floor. He isn't even in the picture when the ball is released. So this is a nice pass. This is what you're looking for as a point guard with your head up, throwing the ball up ahead. Let's go. Yeah, KC, the thigh. Hey, you need good thighs to play football. Good legs, strong legs helps. This is a kind of a mixture of Patrick Mahomes and maybe hopefully Jalen Llewellyn. I'm going to speak on experience on this gym. When you look over to the left and the right of the gym, certainly there is a pad underneath where you go flying. One time I went chasing a ball, tripped, and fell into a glass window and almost killed myself. I don't like the setup here. I think that I would advise this place to put some padding up because like, let's just say you were chasing after a loose ball towards the glass, you might trip. And if you did that, you might go flying into the glass. So because of that, all the way, the door's right there. I don't know what you can do with the door. Maybe you could put some padding on the door, but I believe that there should be safety padding on the glass. Not up top. You don't need that, but where people be good running after the ball. KC says Dwayne Wade. I'll buy it. Got the red shorts on. So there it is today. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thanks for listening on Clubhouse. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Until then, have a great day. Bye.